In the book and movie The Martian, astronaut Mark Watney grew potatoes to stay alive on Mars. This idea has grown into our culture and even a recent space survival game. But if you were stationed for years on Mars, the Moon, or an asteroid, would you be sitting down every day to a plate of potatoes? Recent research has found more plants which could grow on a Mars base. They are planting seeds in a simulated Martian soil and learning from experiments on the International Space Station. In this paper, they grew sweet pepper, lettuce, peas, and chickpeas in Martian soil, also known as regolith, adding a variety of texture even if it is still very veggie-focused. But no spacecraft has ever returned from Mars, so where did they get the regolith from? Well, from Florida. They ordered Mars Global Simulant from the Exolith Lab at the University of Central Florida.
So Exolith Lab is the facility that we're at today, where we harbor all of these different testing facilities for spacecraft getting ready to go on their journey to the moon or beyond.
Now, I don't want anyone to think this is sponsored. You probably don't want a brick of Mars or moon regolith. First, because it isn't great to breathe in. Lunar dirt was like hay fever for the Apollo astronauts' eyes and lungs. Designs for Mars missions are proposing suit ports to lock astronaut suits to the outside of a module and prevent regolith from getting tracked in to the human living quarters. Secondly, the Chicago Botanic Garden published a recipe for making your own Mars regolith, assuming you have an autoclave and other lab equipment, though their samples hardened and eventually they ordered simulant from a website. Back to the research. The seeds were less likely to germinate in the Mars test environment compared to the control of Earth soil. One obstacle is toxic perchlorates. When Andy Weir wrote The Martian, there wasn't much information out there about perchlorates. He's already sort of retconned that Mark Watney could wash them out of the soil with water. This study instead recommends cleaning the soil with plants of woody species, non-woody terrestrial plants, aquatic plants, and potential microbes. The citation there is a 2021 paper, Potential Biological Remediation Strategies for Removing Perchlorate from Martian Regolith. I prefer to shout out open access papers, so I'll mention Perchlorate and Agriculture on Mars, which suggest a few options, or even genetically modified microbes to treat the regolith. Another obstacle, here on Earth, plants get some of their nutrients from life in the soil. In this study, they added a macroalgae to stimulate germination. They recommend this continues in future experiments to improve the feeding of interplanetary civilization. It's pretty lofty goals. Meanwhile, research has continued on potatoes and sweet potatoes on Mars. I'm going to continue on to what plants worked on asteroids and the moon. You might be wondering, why? On the International Space Station, the crew celebrates the arrival of fresh apples and oranges from Earth. It's a rare treat and a morale booster.
Oranges and apples. Very special day.
For example, we have plenty of fruit. Most of the time, it's not fresh fruit, unfortunately.
In 2021, astronauts celebrated Taco Night after harvesting hatch chilies. A fresh harvest was also appreciated on China's space station. The food which is brought on a round-trip mission to Mars will need to be shelf-stable for 5 years. Foods like this exist. In my closet, I have dehydrated egg and biscuits which will last for 10 years, but they're sold for emergencies. You're not eating them every day because they're just not as tasty. The theory is that growing and harvesting fresh vegetables will be a pleasant and rewarding activity for the astronauts, even if it isn't their primary food source. Even in The Martian, Watney was eating potatoes to make the main rations last longer. You might also be wondering, how realistic is it? When I started researching, I was a pessimist. I was thinking, even if a plant can grow on Martian soil, needs to be inside of a habitat, we need to add light, water, heat, and air to keep it alive. Then came some optimism. If humans are living on Mars, we already solved light, water, heat, and air. Once you have that working, you just need soil and a larger area for your Mars base. So it would be nice if we could pick up that soil locally, instead of hauling it all the way from Earth. You might not have thought about astronauts visiting an asteroid just for exploration. The movies, they're usually trying to stop the end of the world. But unlike the Moon or Mars, it's easy to land and take off from an asteroid because there's no atmosphere and very low gravity.
How big are we talking?
It's the size of Texas, Mr. President.
Even the largest asteroids have much lower mass, so lower gravity compared to our moon. The OSIRIS-REx probe visited this asteroid, which is more typical, about half a kilometer or a third of a mile across. This paper imagines a couple of ideas for where the astronauts would be living, landing on the surface of an asteroid or staying in orbit around it. Either way, we're focused on growing plants in the regolith picked up from the asteroid. Based on samples from the probes Hayabusa and OSIRIS-REx, the researchers knew to look at carbonaceous meteorites. So the researchers went to the Exolith lab, and there's a whole paper about how they created these asteroid regolith simulants. But how could they simulate the low gravity here on Earth? Their lab used an instrument known as the clinostat. Gravity is still happening, but the plant is constantly rotating, so it never establishes a fixed direction for up or down. Research with clinostats, and validated on the International Space Station, have suggested these plant pillows, which help get plants pointed in the right direction with light and proper positioning of their seeds. For any asteroid-bound foodies watching, researchers grew lettuce, pink radishes, and pepper. But they specifically mentioned chimayo here. This is actually a sweet pepper in my plate. After trying the asteroid plate, I'd recommend whoever goes on this mission bring some salad dressing. Within the experiment, the plants which grew in asteroid regolith were less healthy. When the researchers tried different blends of soil and regolith, the more peat moss from planet Earth, the better their samples grew. Seeds also failed to germinate 100% simulant or in the microgravity clinostat. In one additional, possibly far-fetched proposal, the paper suggests bringing the asteroid regolith back to Earth to replenish topsoil. Finally, let's look to our neighbor, the Moon. It sure doesn't look green. Researchers at Texas A&M succeeded in growing different varieties of chickpeas by using a fungi which has the symbiotic relationship with plants' root systems on Earth. One of the lesser-known facts about the Moon is that the soil almost scared NASA off of attempting a moon landing at all. At the dawn of the space race, no one knew what to expect of a surface that had been unaffected by weathering or normal gravity. Newspapers printed scientists' fears that the moon could be covered with a kilometer of dust, quicksand, or even explode on contact, even recommending using an atomic bomb to clear the landing site. This fear influenced the iconic bug-like legs and pads of the lunar module. After Surveyor and other probes had soft landed on the moon, giving us a better picture, NASA would send astronauts to Iceland and remote parts of the American West to learn geology. Now that the Artemis missions have returned astronauts to lunar orbit, growing a plant on the moon, even just as a proof of concept, could be happening in the real near future. In a rare experiment, scientists were allowed to grow plants in lunar regolith returned from the actual Apollo missions. And NASA is supporting a competition for students of all grade levels to design their own experiments.
It is for students to try to grow crops in a lunar regolith simulant, which would resemble the surface of the moon.
The team of students are growing green beans, Swiss chard, and a type of edible flower.
Given the awareness that this generation has for problems on Earth, I hope that this will develop an interest in harvesting the moon, Mars, and asteroids so we can see it happen in our lifetimes. Just bring some spices, some salad dressing to liven things up. Making this video has been a delight. As you can tell, I'm recording and drawing this myself without AI. Please like and subscribe to keep the momentum going, and thanks for watching.